Okay, so today we're going to go over Bohr models, or you can call them Bohr diagrams. You'll hear a couple of different names for them. Okay, so when we're looking at a Bohr diagram, let's kind of break it down. So we've seen when you were doing the building atom, you saw examples of Bohr atoms. Okay, so Bohr diagrams are diagrams that show all electrons. We'll represent electrons with a lowercase e and a little negative sign, right? Because electrons are negative. So they show all electrons. So let's look at an example of a Bohr diagram. So in the Bohr diagram, we have these circles, which we call energy shells. Okay. So this first one, this would be my first energy shell. Or you might also hear the term energy level. Okay. Then I would have my second energy level. So my second energy level or energy shell, we'll go with energy shell for now. And my third. Okay. Then my third energy shell. Okay, so these are shells are where electrons hang out. So some Bohr diagrams show the nucleus by representing it with just a dot. So we don't focus on the nucleus at all. Or some of them don't include the nucleus at all because we're focusing on showing the electrons, not the nucleus. Okay, so in this model, my first energy level can hold up to 2 electrons. Okay, so it can hold 2 electrons. After this shell, so for example, my second energy level is going to hold 8 electrons. So this would hold 8 electrons. After that, it's considered full. After the second one, all of them hold 8. So this would hold 8. My fourth energy would hold 8. My fifth energy level would hold 8, according to this model that we have here. Okay, so let's look at an example of how to set them up. So let's do that by working through some. So let's say I have carbon, right? If I have carbon and I look at carbon looks like this, right? We'll draw it bigger to kind of focus on it. So carbon symbol would look like this. Well, my atomic number, which is the top, tells me my number of protons or electrons, right? So carbon has 6 electrons. So that's what I want to show. So let's say I'm doing a Bohr diagram for carbon. Okay. Well, first I start with the first energy level, right? I draw 2. I go 1, and I put them apart because electrons are negative and they want to be apart from each other. 2. Okay. Some models pair them up. We won't really pair them up for the sake of this class. Okay. Now that's full. So because it's full, we need to draw another energy level. Well, I have 2, but I want to show 6 total electrons, right? So I go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I have 6 in totals, and then that's it. That's my Bohr diagram for carbon. Okay. Now this diagram has a total of 6 electrons. But now I'm going to introduce a new vocab word. So this new vocab word is called valence electrons. Okay, so valence electrons. The valence electrons are the electrons on the outside shell, that last shell. Well, in this case, this is my last shell. So how many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4. So in this, carbon has 4 valence electrons. Okay, let's work through another example. Let's do one a little bit longer, a little bit bigger. We can do sulfur. Okay, sulfur looks like this. It has 16 S 32. Okay, so remember that top number tells me my number of electrons. So I want to show I want to show 16 electrons. Okay, so I draw my first energy level. 1, 2, that's full. Draw my second one. I can hold up to 8 on the second one and everything after that, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 here, 2 here. That gives me a total of 10. I need 6 more. So I'm going to draw one more shell. One more shell. I have 10, so I need 6 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. Now, what is my last shell? Well, I have 3 shells. This is my last one. My last one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this has 6 valence electrons. Okay. Valence electrons will come into play, and we'll kind of see. We'll see why they're useful in terms of how they behave and so forth. Okay, so that's Bohr diagrams. That's it. Now let's go into Lewis diagrams. So Lewis diagrams. Let's work through an example here. Let's look at phosphorus. I know phosphorus has 5 valence electrons. Okay. So something else to know is that Lewis diagrams, they don't show all electrons. Lewis diagrams show only valence electrons. So only, sorry, I can't really write because it's a computer here, but they show only valence electrons. Okay. So let's say I have this. I know it has 5. Okay, how I know that, we'll go over that in more detail later, but just know it has 5. So how we set it up, so first you draw the symbol, that's step 1. Okay, then we're going to distribute these electrons in what we call the cross method. So we're going to put them in a cross like that, right? Like that. That's how we distribute them. We don't distribute them just like next to each other or anything like that. So we do what we call the cross method. So we start up top, right? We put 1. Then do the cross method. 2, 3, and 4. Okay? But we want to show 5, so then we start pairing them up after that, still doing the cross method. Then we pair them up. We put one next to another, right? Then we would, if I needed more than that, then I would continue. But I just need 5, and that is it. That's my final structure. Okay? All right, let's do some Lewis diagrams for the ones we already did, the Bohr models. Well, let's take a look at that. Well, if I look at carbon, I'm only going to show the outside level, right? The outside has 4. So for carbon, if I'm drawing the Lewis structure, it would go carbon. I have 4 valence electrons, so I'd have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and that's it. That's my Lewis structure. For sulfur, I would have S. I need to show 6 valence electrons because I'm showing that outside level. Cross method, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I can pair up. 5. I need to pair another one up, so I pair these 2 up. And 6. That is my Lewis structure. Okay, and that's it. So for where we're at in the course, in order to draw a Lewis structure, you first need to draw a Bohr diagram. The Bohr diagram will let us know what the Lewis diagram looks like, because the Bohr diagram is simply the outside electrons put onto here, right? If we have 4 here, then we have 4 here. If we have 6 here, then we have 6 here. If your Lewis structures have more than 8, then something is wrong, because the last shell can never have more than 8, so this shouldn't have more than 8. Okay, so that's just a way to double check whether or not you did that correctly. So again, there's a faster way to draw Lewis structures, but for where we're at in the course, first we draw the Bohr diagram, then that will tell us how to draw the Lewis structure. Okay? And for all the examples that you will work on in the classwork, you would first draw the Bohr, then followed by the Lewis structure.